We are back with Core Justice, the first book in the Core Justice series, and we are moving on to Chapter 8, Gulch District, Nashville, Tennessee. Compared to Brian's tiny apartment, Cal's building was a Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal. He pulled up to the side of the high-rise condo. What the hell does this guy do for a living now that he's out of the Corps? He got out of the car and walked to the building's entrance. A collection of mixed citizenry walked the sidewalks on either side of the street. Cal could see at least two high-end restaurants within a block of Cal's building. If you come to the Gulch in Nashville now, there's quite a few more. Looked like the area was really taking off. He'd heard that there'd been a lot of redevelopment in the Gulch in recent years. Not a bad place to live. The passcode Cal gave him got him in the glassed front door. A few steps inside, he could see what appeared to be a receptionist glancing over at him. As he got closer, she perked up. "Can I help you, sir?" "I'm good. Just picking up some things for my buddy in the hospital." She looked startled and came out of her seat. "Is that Cal you're talking about?" "It is." "Oh my God, is he okay? We heard all about it on the news. He's such a nice guy. When is he coming home?" "I can't say for sure, but he's doing a lot better. I'll tell him that you asked about him." "Irene. I'll tell him that you asked about him, Irene." Ryan exited the elevator on the 23rd floor. There were only two doors visible along the hallway. Cal's was almost directly across from the elevator. He quickly punched in Cal's code and entered the condo. Despite its opening smoothly, he could feel the weight of the door. Standard issue or an upgrade Cal had installed. Curious. The thing reminded him of some of the armored vehicles in the Corps. By habit, he turned around swiftly to lock the door and deadbolted. No deadbolt. There were, however, two buttons, one about 2 feet above the door handle and one 2 feet below. He pressed the button above the handle and heard a mechanical scrape as the deadbolt engaged. He did the same with the lower button, then turned to get his bearings. Even the lobby downstairs hadn't prepared him for this. What was visible of the unit was completely open. You could see the living room and dining room from the kitchen. It looked like there was another hallway leading to the bedroom. The furniture looked new and modern in a Spartan way. Color accents here and there, but mostly clean lines and polished stainless steel. He hadn't met many enlisted guys with a place like this. Once again, he wondered what Cal's whole story was. What really took his breath away was the view. One whole wall consisted of windows that faced the Nashville skyline. At this time of night, he could see the city clearly. He pulled out his cell phone and dialed the hospital switchboard. Seconds later, he was connected to Cal's room. "You get in okay?" Cal asked. "Yeah, you said you had a little condo in the Gulch. I wasn't expecting Superman's fortress of solitude." "Where are you standing right now?" "I'm in your living room." "Okay, head down the hallway and toward my bedroom in the back." "Got it." Brian made his way toward the hallway. Walking into the bedroom, he noticed the pictures on the wall. Cal and his fiancée in every shot. Poor bastard. "All right, I'm in your bedroom. Go over to the closet and open the doors." Brian pulled open the two doors, peering inside the huge walk-in, and switched on the light. The closet felt as big as his apartment. After a couple seconds' pause, Cal continued, "Go to the back of the closet and open the panels of the built-in armoire." "Okay, done. Now take out the bottom right drawer." Brian put a hand on the handle but didn't pull on it. "You mean open it?" "No, take the whole thing out and put it on the floor." "Now feel along the right side of where you took the drawer out," Cal said. "You should feel a button about the size of a dime. Press it and step back." He suddenly had the nagging sense that he wasn't going to like what was coming next. This was obviously a compartment for some kind of secret stash. Drugs or something worse. With some trepidation, he pressed the button and heard a mechanical click. He could now see that the interior of the wardrobe had moved forward just a bit. There appeared to be a seam in the middle. "All right, now open the panels. Once you get that open, there's a separate light switch inside." Brian pulled the two heavy panels apart and stepped back. Well, it was definitely a secret stash, just not the kind Brian had imagined. Neatly held in racks and now lit by the interior light was a bottom row of assorted number of rifles. The top row was half pistols of varying calibers and half full of other gear like knives, GPS, compass, and survival gear. What the hell, thought Brian? This Marine is ready for war. "Grab the first pistol on the top left," Cal said. "Should be my Beretta 9mm. Grab the one next to that too, the .45 caliber Springfield XD. Brian shook his head but didn't move. Hey man, I can't bring these things back to the hospital. Administration tends to frown on personal arsenals. Look, Doc, I know I'm asking a lot on this one, but I need your help. You should know me well enough by now to understand that I don't like asking for help. Brian laughed. Saw a glimpse of that the other day when you refused my help getting up to take a piss and landed flat on your face. Cal sighed, like the memory was a sharp pain in his side. Yeah, I know. But look, I just have to have this funny feeling and I want to be prepared. You ever get that feeling in your gut while in the field that something bad was going to happen? Of course. But Cal, this is different. You're not in the field and you're surrounded by trained hospital security staff. Not to mention the local cops are always stopping by to see how you're doing. You're right, Cal said slowly. But I thought the same thing about taking Jess out to dinner at a seemingly safe downtown restaurant. Cal let that sink in for a couple seconds and continued. You know, I wouldn't ask you to take the heat for this. If anybody finds it on me, I'll blame it on myself. Thing is, the minute I walk out of that hospital, I'll need to have some protection of my own. Brian's stomach was uneasy. He trusted Cal, but the thought of bringing loaded weapons into the hospital still did not sit well with him. Worst case, he could get fired and thrown in jail. He liked his job at Vanderbilt and wasn't planning on leaving anytime soon. On the other hand, whether a new friend or not, Cal Stokes was his brother in arms, a fellow warrior that upheld the highest standards of the military establishment. He knew deep down that Cal would never let him take the fall. In for a penny, in for a pound. Okay, he conceded. You said the Beretta and the Springfield. Anything else? Cal went on to ask for a couple boxes of ammunition and one of his knives from the top row. Then he instructed Brian to grab one of his gym bags from the front of the closet, fill it with some random clothing, and hide the weapons inside. Brian put the phone down and grabbed the first pistol, reflexively ejecting the full magazine and checking the chamber. Fully loaded, just like a Marine. The next pistol was the same. With both magazines reinserted, he stuffed each into a separate pair of boxer briefs. Next, he grabbed 2 boxes of ammunition, one of 9mm and one of 45 cal. He finished by hiding the knife in a pair of socks and loading some workout pants, shirts, and sweatshirts on top. Mission completed, he picked the phone back up. Anything else you need? Yeah, grab my cell phone. I think it's either on the kitchen counter or on my nightstand. Thanks again for doing this, Doc. Yeah. You just make sure that if we get sent to jail, you're the one that gets to bunk with Bubba. Cal chuckled. You got it. I'll see you in the morning. Brian put his phone back in his coat pocket, picked up the gym bag, now laden with small arsenal, and took it out into the bedroom and laid it on the bed. He went back into the closet, closed the hidden panels, replaced the drawer, and resealed the armoire. He found Cal's cell phone on the nightstand. The thought occurred to him that it was strange how Cal didn't have it with him that night. Didn't most people carry their cell phones everywhere? He did one final sweep of the condo. Pausing by the nightstand, he grabbed the photograph of Cal and Jessica. It was a portrait of a couple sitting on the edge of a dock at some lake. They looked happy. With a small picture frame now wrapped in a t-shirt and safely packed in the full gym bag, he headed for the door. All right, next part. Brian decided on the way back down to the lobby not to wait until the next morning to get the weapons back to Cal. The night staff at the hospital was lighter, and going in through the staff entrance would attract less scrutiny. He waved to Irene as he went by. You tell Cal that we want to know as soon as he's getting out, she said, her voice obnoxiously bubbly. Maybe we can throw him a little party when he gets back. Hope I'm invited, Brian replied. It was small talk. The last thing Cal would want coming home was a cocktail party. Guys like Cal didn't want or need that kind of attention. Better to be among close friends, or, even better, with a couple Marine buddies drinking beer and swapping sea stories. He'd tell Cal that the girl had said hello, but also warn him about the possibility of a homecoming fiesta. The idea triggered an uncomfortable memory lodged in the back of his brain. His parents had thrown him a surprise welcome home party once when he'd returned from overseas. By then, unbeknownst to him, the Navy had already informed the Ramirez family of Brian's valor in battle. His parents decided the best way to convey their pride was to show off their son to a bunch of friends and a few neighbors Brian didn't even know. He still remembered the look of devastation on his mother's face as he'd screamed at her for throwing the party. She'd left the room crying. Somehow his father diplomatically ushered the guests out of the house. Looking back now, his soul ached at the memory of his behavior. It wasn't their fault. His parents were not raised in a military family. They had no idea what it was like to serve in the armed forces. To them, it was all parades and a clean-shaven son returning home with apple cheeks and great posture. They just wanted to celebrate their son, the hero, to honor Brian in the only way they knew how. The last thing he wanted was public recognition for acts of gallantry. He didn't even want the awards they'd given him. He just wanted his Marines back. In time, he'd managed to explain this to his parents. His mother and father loved their only son, evidenced by how hard they worked to understand what he'd been through, realizing that there might never be a right time for him to tell them the whole story. He'd seen other friends return to similar homecomings, families that had not understood their need for privacy. It was never a good thing. Such breaches of personal space tended to wear out familial bonds as if no one in the family spoke the same language, causing resentments over a small matter of communication. That was a problem with serving in the military. The only ones who understood what you've gone through are those who'd served as well. 15 minutes later, he pulled into the staff parking lot and headed through the staff entrance carrying Cal's things. Security presence was scarce, mainly because most of the doors were locked, only accessible by a key card at this time of night. He was back in Cal's room in 5 minutes. "Hey, Doc, I wasn't expecting you until tomorrow morning." "Yeah, well, I didn't really want to be lugging around your arsenal for the next 12 hours. Thanks again for going. I won't forget it." Cal's eyes were sincere. Yeah, just don't let anybody see it. It's my ass if the Marine I've been assigned to gets caught with all that gear. Just be careful, okay, Cal?" Cal nodded and struggled out of the bed to grab the gym bag. "Hey, Doc, you want to do me a favor and go watch the door for me?" "Sure." Brian walked over to the door and leaned against it, keeping an eye at the window slit while Cal unpacked the bag. The first item he pulled out was a framed picture of him and Jess. He stared down at the picture and touched Jess's face. Maybe bringing the photo wasn't the best idea. There was something terrible in the Marine's eyes. They watered as if the pent-up grief was about to overwhelm his resolve. Something in the man's face changed. His jaw stiffened. Brian heard the sharp intake of breath through the nose. Cal's body straightened as he reverently placed the picture frame on the side table. The whole series of bodily motions, which took all of 8 seconds, conveyed a single powerful decision. "I'm not going to do this, damn it. I'm not going to do this now, damn it." Next, Cal checked the weapons to make sure they were loaded and ready. Then he took both guns, loaded each into one of his white socks, and stuffed them back into the bag along with the knife. The Marine had a conspiratorial grin on his face. "The dangerous stuff is back in the bag, Doc. Have a seat if you want to stick around." Brian narrowed his eyes at him. "Stick around for what?" "You'll see. I've just got a feeling." Cal grabbed his cell phone, sat on the edge of the bed, and started scrolling through the phone's touchscreen. He shook his head and mumbled, "A shit ton of voicemails." Brian moved up next to Cal and looked down at the phone. Cal clicked a small camera icon on the home screen and entered a 9-digit passcode. Video footage appeared in a series of scrollable files. He couldn't believe it. Cal was scrolling through videos taken at his condo. "Hey, is that me?" Brian asked. "Yep. I'm starting with the most recent and moving back. I've got these things rigged so that they're motion sensitive. Got them hidden pretty well in each room. Bet you didn't see them, did you?" Brian shook his head. "Why do you have all that surveillance gear up? Speaking of which, what's with the armor-plated door and access code add-on?" "I thought you might pick up on that. You're not as dumb as you look, Swabby." Brian rolled his eyes as Cal continued. "The video surveillance gear is actually through a local security company. Nothing too fancy. I had it installed just as a precaution. I found you can never be too safe. I usually turn it off while I'm there so I don't waste space filming myself in underwear." He turned the phone so Brian could get a better picture. "See, here's you getting to my front door. The next camera picks you up coming into the foyer, etc. Pretty cool." "Yeah, my dad was in the security business. I guess I picked up on some of his habits." Brian added that tidbit about Cal's dad to the back of his brain for inquiry at a later date. A family security business would definitely explain the vault and arsenal at Cal's place. "So what are you looking for?" Brian asked. "Just want to make sure I wasn't rifling through your panty drawer?" "Just wanted to see if anyone else made a visit." Cal sounded distracted. As Brian watched, Cal fast-forwarded through the footage. He saw the front door's exterior camera pick up residents walking by Cal's unit. After a couple minutes of forwarding, Cal stopped. Looks like Irene stopped by. Hey, isn't that the girl from the front desk? Yeah, her name's Irene. Nice enough girl, but kind of nosy. She said to say hello, by the way, Brian said. Cal ignored the comment and kept his eyes on the small screen. At first, Irene looked like she was knocking on the door. Then she pulled out her cell phone and made a phone call while standing right in front of Cal's door. She looked nervous. The video didn't have sound, but Brian got the impression that Irene didn't like what she was hearing from the other end. Finally, she hung up the phone and put it back in her pocket. She approached the front door again, and it looked like she was entering a passcode to get in. The next frame showed Irene stepping into Cal's foyer, just as they'd seen a few minutes before with Brian's visit to the condo. Cal sat up. What the hell is she doing? I don't know, maybe making sure that you hadn't left the stove on or something. Doubt it, Cal said. The building staff isn't supposed to enter the private residences unless there's an emergency. Plus, she doesn't know I have cameras installed. As they both watched, Irene made her way through the living area and kitchen. She seemed to be looking for something. She paused to open random drawers and peer inside. Nothing she saw seemed to be of much interest. What the hell is she looking for? Cal said. Irene moved from the living area to Cal's bedroom. She opened the drawers on the bedside table and picked up Cal's cell phone out of the charging cradle. It looked like she'd pressed the unlock button on the phone, but without the unlock code, she quickly grew frustrated and put the phone back in its charger. She moved to the other side of the bed and picked up a small package that appeared to have already been opened. Cal clenched his teeth. Tell me that package was there when you went by, Doc. Yeah, it was there, I think. What is it? Just a little engagement gift from Jess's parents. Peering back down at the phone, they watched it as Irene set the package down and advanced her search. The woman did a quick scan of the bedroom closet, then headed back towards the main living area. She looked around one more time, then left through the front door. Irene's going to have a little explaining to do, Cal said. Brian crossed his arms. You want to tell me what's going on? The less you know, the better, Doc. I already exposed you by having you go by my place. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Brian scoffed. Look, brother, I don't know what the hell's going on, but I do know that you're in no condition to be doing much of anything. So if you need help, I'm here. Cal stared at Brian for a moment and nodded. If this goes to shit in a couple days, don't say I didn't warn you. Sounds like what my platoon sergeant said to me after I volunteered for that ambush patrol, Brian said. Didn't you learn never to volunteer for anything in the military, Doc? Yeah, Brian smiled. I guess I'm just a slow learner. Okay, here's what I think. Cal looked back down at the video. That guy that attacked me, Dante West, isn't done with me yet. I'll bet he's not happy about what I did to his crew. He's also pissed that I messed up his face. You think he's coming after you? Yeah. Why not your family? Brian asked. All my family's dead. I'm all that's left. Brian's eyebrows knit together. What about all those phone calls you've been getting, the ones you don't want to take? They're guys with my dad's company. I'll deal with them later. Hey man, I know this whole situation sucks, but you've got to talk to someone. You can't just hole up here and pretend the outside world doesn't exist. I'll bet those guys are worried about you. Cal stared at Brian for a minute, then nodded. I'll call them in a minute. Can you do me another favor? What now? You want me to go break someone out of jail? No, smartass. Can you get me some coffee? I think this is going to be a long night. Brian agreed and left the room. As he made his way to the cafeteria, he thought about what Cal had said about his family. He was sure Jess's family had tried to see Cal, only the stubborn Marine had refused any and all visitors. He also had a stack of messages from various callers, all waiting to check on Cal's condition. Brian had kept tight-lipped until now, but he knew that would have to change. In order for Cal to make a full physical and, more importantly, mental recovery after losing Jess, he'd have to let his friends help. As a nurse and corpsman, Brian had seen a lot of troops clam him up and refuse treatment. Some never made it back to reality. Others drowned their demons in booze and drugs. Cal Stokes didn't seem like the type to go off the deep end, but having a strong support system would still be crucial in getting back to full form. If Cal didn't make the calls himself, Brian would make some for him. There's no other decision to make when your brother falls. You pick him up. That's that. And that is the end of chapter 8. It's interesting in this chapter, I haven't read this in a while. I talk a lot about coming back and people not understanding. And, I was lucky enough that I did not have to go to war myself, but obviously my Marines did, and family and friends and all that. And there's still this big disconnect between the troops that go off to war and their family and their friends that stay back here. And one of the things that we are trying to figure out, and one of the things that I delve into in a lot of my writing, is how do we take care of those people? And actually, if you happen to have read my latest book, it's called The First. It's the first book in the Lone Peak Peak Heroes series. Sorry, getting all tongue-tied from all the reading here. You'll see that we're trying to go after this theme of how do you bring men and women back from war? How do you make them part of society again? So I don't know. I don't have the answer. It's something that I still think about. I talk to a lot of people about, and maybe somebody out there listening, watching me stumble over words, maybe you guys will have the answers. So let us know in the comments if you have any ideas on that. But other than that, we will head on to the next chapter.